Sonic Racing Crossworlds is so good it's unfair, frankly. Recently, they held an open network test where everybody could play the game for free for a weekend before it even came out to make sure their servers were ready to handle it. And let me tell you, they're ready. Everything felt really good. I was even doing a lot of crossplay on my PC and the Switch with no issues. I'm a good 5 to 10 hours into playing it, and unfortunately, by the time of recording this, the open network test is over. But I cannot wait for the full game to come out. I will be buying it. But I wanted to give you my initial thoughts on the game for y'all, and ultimately answer if it's worth the admittedly steep price tag. So let's go over the details we've learned and actually playing the game to see how it felt. First up, the driving itself. It is fast. Look, I get it's a Sonic game, but this is a fast kart racer. It's not incredibly technical. Realistically, all you'll be doing is drifting and doing tricks in the air and stuff. But because the game is so fast, just driving correctly requires a lot of good reaction time and focus. So anything more technical and the game would be hell to play. It would not be approachable at all. The controls themselves make a lot of sense to pull off, especially with the drifting, because as it turns out, you can chain your drifts together. I don't know if this is something that is in a lot of Sonic racing games. Admittedly, the only Sonic racing adjacent game I've played was Sonic Riders, and I loved that game, but I never really played like Sonic Racing All-Stars Transformed that much, aside from a couple hours here and there. But regardless, say you're on an S-curve and you drift the first half of the curve, and you're still in the middle of your drift as the road starts to go left instead of right. You can let go of the drift button, start turning the other way, and quickly repress the drift button to continue your drift along the entire S-curve, and it feels good to do. I will say there's one point of confusion with the controls, but it might just be a skill issue. I've been playing a lot with the Extreme Gear, which kind of feels like the motorcycle of this game, the Extreme Gear being the hoverboards from Sonic Riders. And maybe I'm crazy, but it feels like the Extreme Gear has 2 different turning radiuses at random. Sometimes I'll be inside drifting and cut 90 degrees straight into the grass, but sometimes I feel like even though I'm inside drifting, I still fly way too fast to the outside of the turn. I really don't know what the difference here is. Like, I'm getting the hang of just riding the middle of the drift, but I'm not sure what's causing either one of those extremes to happen. Maybe I just need to play with the game more, maybe there's another mechanic I'm not aware of, I don't know. But that really is the only hiccup in learning how to play this game, because once you figure out how to drift and start getting the hang of it, it feels good. And the controls themselves are boosted by the courses. Now, before we bring up the courses, we need to talk about how this game works, because it does play differently than any other kart racer I've played before. Essentially, the traditional way each race goes, and I say traditional because you can turn this off in the settings. Wow, customizable settings on how you play your game. Take notes, Nintendo. Shade aside, the traditional way to play races in Sonic Racing Crossworlds is you pick your course and you do the first lap regularly on the course you picked. Then, at the beginning of the second lap, whoever is in first place gets to pick between 2 options, one visible track and one random track. Whichever one they pick, everybody then teleports to for the second lap, and we do the entire second lap on that other course. Then at the end of that second lap, we return to our first course, but something has changed. Sometimes it's slight, sometimes it's major. Some of the more slight changes are a shortcut or 2 opening, whereas a major change can be found in the Wonder Museum, where on the first lap, you're just going through a museum. But on the third lap, all the exhibits have come to life and become obstacles that you need to avoid, which is a really fun gimmick for a go-kart. It's one of my favorite tracks. I didn't think I'd like the museum course, but this is such a fun concept for a go-kart track. Now, as far as the selection for second lap races goes, as far as I'm aware, it is still unclear if there are second lap exclusive courses. What I mean by that is, it is clear, and I've had it happen several times, that sometimes the second lap can be one of the other playable courses. For example, you could be playing on Metal Harbor, and then one of the choices could be Wonder Museum, and your second lap will be on Wonder Museum instead, which is, of itself, its own full course. However, there are a few courses that are in the selection pool that are not seemingly playable, at least in this demo. Which makes sense, this demo is only 9 courses, and they do not show what the other courses are. It seems like there's about 30 courses, so there's plenty that we have not seen yet, and that might just be what's going on here. But some of the middle paths, like Casino Zone and Fire Road, while playable in this demo, are only playable as a second lap option. So maybe it's in a later cup, who knows. But speaking about those cups and the courses, the Grand Prix is done in a fairly interesting way, and it's a way that showcases this gimmick of Sonic Racing Crossworlds without making us drive in a straight line for the first lap. That being that the first 3 races work as I just explained, that you do your course, you pick a random second lap, and then you do your course again. You do that 3 times, but if you notice, This Grand Prix only shows 3 tracks, but it's still a 4-race Grand Prix. The reason being is that the 4th race is 1 lap on each course. You do your first lap on the first course, the second lap on the second course, and your third lap on the third course. It's such a fun concept and such a fun way to wrap up the entire cup. It's just really a fun way to do a Grand Prix with a game like this, and frankly, you can only do it with a game that has this kind of a gimmick. But these courses are all bangers, so far anyway. They're all built with the speed and tight turning of the gameplay in mind, which leads to a lot of really satisfying drifting. Not to mention the music of these courses in general. Look, everyone knows that Sonic and Sega are masters when it comes to video game OSTs, and they were not sleeping when it came to Sonic Racing Crossworlds. 2 of my favorite songs are tied for the best song of the game so far, that being the song for RyeTwost and the song for Metal Harbor. Rooftop Run and Metal Harbor, I don't remember the real name of the song, are some of my favorite Sonic songs of all time, but they've both been remixed in the best way. You've been listening to the song for RyeTwost so far, it's a banger, but to showcase the other one, we're gonna switch to Metal Harbor's remix now. I can't get over how good these songs are. And finally, we gotta talk about how customizable this game is. Obviously, there's dozens of characters to pick from, all with different stats. That's expected. But the carts themselves can be either pre-selected or combined by front, back, and wheel to form hundreds of different stat or even look combinations. It's like a slightly better version visually of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe customization system, where in that one you pick your car, your wheel, and then your glider, which doesn't make a huge visual difference. In this one, you can select the front and back of your car, which makes a lot of different choices look visually different, to the point where I found myself realizing that the stat difference of the demo that we can pick from isn't that huge in what I'm looking for. So instead, I just built a hoverboard that I thought looked cool. And then, not to mention, you can then select the color scheme of the car, the horn of the car, and the aura, this game's word for trails. You have so many different options for the visuals and look of your car. As far as what stats feel best, I've really liked Boost as my main stat and Speed as my second stat. I think that might be what the meta emerges to be. As far as how to get there, I found that actually, surprisingly, power-based characters are the easiest way to do it, because speed-based characters have pretty low boost stats, and the boost-based characters have pretty low speed stats. However, the power characters have low handling, high boost, and decent speed. So putting them on a boost car, like an extreme gear, is the stats I found the best, personally, in my opinion. So I've been playing a lot of Knuckles on a custom extreme gear. That then is further supported by the gadget system of this game, where there are some really powerful abilities that can be slotted into your gadget to further customize your racing experience. And these are very distinct and difference-making abilities. One of my favorites is Collision Boost, where when you bump into another racer, you get a small boost, which seems to be adjusted by your boost stats. Or even some gadgets that make you air trick faster, because that sounds on paper very minimal, but look at the difference of none of these gadgets and 2 air trick speed up gadgets. That's a lot more tricking, which leads to a bigger boost when you land. This game is incredibly customizable. But it's time to get to the 2 big questions everyone is asking. First of all, is Sonic Racing Crossworlds better than Mario Kart World? And honestly, I think it's really hard to say, because they're very different kart racers. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is not a very technical game, but it is very fast. You will be constantly reacting to all the craziness happening around you and trying your best to stay on the road. Whereas in Mario Kart World, it's very technical, but it feels slower in comparison. You'll be constantly chaining tricks together and trying to get the most impressive paths while trying not to fly off the course, but the game is a bit slower to compensate on how technical it is. I love them both dearly for very different reasons. Although I still am a little miffed about the lack of options that Mario Kart World is giving us, especially in the face of how customizable Sonic Racing Crossworlds seems to be. So ultimately for this question, I take it as a wow, 2 cakes situation. However, the other question, which is slightly easier, is this game worth the $70 price tag? If you love kart racers, I think the answer is yes. It's a genuinely really compelling kart racer that I find myself being addicted to, and I'm gonna have withdrawal until this game fully comes out. But luckily, if you're not the biggest fan of kart racers, Sonic Racing Crossworlds is fully cross-platform play compatible. Like I said, I was playing on Switch and PC and was playing with people on PC, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. So if you have a PC, you can play it through Steam. If you don't have a Switch too, you can play it on your Xbox. Whatever console or gaming system you have, this game is coming out on it. There's even in-game user IDs so you can friend people across platforms. And if the $70 price tag is a bit too steep for you, but you have a decent computer with Steam, it's a Sonic game on Steam. You know it'll go on sale eventually. So if it ever drops on sale below like $50, I would say it's legitimately a must buy. But at $70, while it is very worth it, it is expensive, so I do understand waiting to buy it. But frankly, none of us can buy it yet because it's not out yet. Did I mention that there's 30 courses, but 6 of them seem like they're collaboration courses? Because there's also a lot of non-Sonic characters confirmed for this game, like Hatsune Miku, SpongeBob, Joker from Persona 5. It's gonna be nuts. And I can't wait to see what the collaboration courses are gonna be. Look, I'm just excited to play this game. I wanna go back to playing the game right now to get footage, and also as an excuse to play more Sonic Racing Crossworlds. But in the meantime, if you wanna see me gush about a different kart racer coming out this year, God, I'm eating so good this year, last week's video was me going over the Kirby Air Ride Direct, which you can find right here. But until next time, you've been watching RyeTwost. Of all the YouTube channels, it's the second one. Stay toasty, slices.